Yesterday, the Chicago Bulls got several good updates in regards to their players that are injured. Coby White and Josh Giddey look prepped to return soon. Zach Collins is out the brace. We're going to talk about those injury updates and what it means for the Chicago Bulls. And also, on today's episode, we're going to discuss that the best trade targets not named Anthony Davis to help Chicago up front in their front court that I think the Bulls could be targeting at the trade deadline. We're talking about all that, plus dive into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And the Chicago Bulls got some injury updates that I think are all really favorable for the Chicago Bulls. This came from KC Johnson yesterday. He said that that head coach Billy Donovan confirmed that Giddey and Coby White practice fully and would be monitored based on how they respond to the contact session. So that's really good. We already knew that Coby White was eyeing his return over this West Coast trip that the Chicago Bulls are on. And Coby White, in a presser after practice, even said himself that he's hoping to play 3 out of the next 5 games for the Chicago Bulls. He will be on a minutes restriction upon his return, which is one of the questions there on exactly how are they going to incorporate him with that calf injury, him getting back to that. So it looks like Coby White is on the precipice of returning. 3 out of the next 5 games. The next 5 games for the Bulls are Utah, Denver, Portland, Miami, and Washington. So if we can get him 3 out of those next 5 games, 2 of those games being home, the games against Miami and Washington. So if Coby White is aiming to get back on the court for 3 out of those 5 games, those are all going to be really important games. You look at Denver, Portland, Miami, those are all going to be tough matchups. The Washington Wizards are a team that don't have a lot of wins, but they've been really competitive this season. So, you can't overlook them at all in any stretch of the imagination. So getting Coby White back on that run is really good. In regards to Josh Giddey, also seems like it's even more favorable in regards to Josh Giddey and him making his return, after him going down with that ankle injury that he suffered in what is probably the worst and most devastating crossover in NBA history when you look at the results of it. But, getting him back out on the court is important. Josh Giddey's averaging near a triple-double for the Chicago Bulls with his production and what he's been able to do on this season so far. 21 points, 9.6 rebounds, 9.3 assists, and 1 steal per game. He's shooting 46% from the field and 38% from 3. He's having a really good season. So, the Bulls getting their starting backcourt back and getting these guys for the first time in the season. Hopefully these guys play. I just hope that the Bulls don't play with us. Here's the thing, right? Because it'll be very Chicago Bulls-like to get Josh Giddey and Coby White back and then kind of have them both sit in opposite games so that we still don't see our actual starting backcourt for another 2 or 3 games. Like, just let them start together. Let them play together because everybody, the basketball world, the Bulls fan base is really excited to see what exactly they look like and if, as a backcourt, they can pick up on where they finished last season. So both these guys, hugely important to the Chicago Bulls. You look at Josh Giddey over that 6-1 start for the Bulls. Us missing his communication, even on the defensive side of the ball, has been something that's been evident over that time. So getting these guys back, the fact that they both had a full contact practice, and now it's just about seeing how they respond to that contact practice. Is there any soreness, things like that? We have all today. The Bulls don't take the court until tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Chicago time. So we'll see. Now, we also got an update in regards to Zach Collins as well. Reportedly, Collins is in game shape. So there's no doubt about his shape, right? So he doesn't have to come back, work up his conditioning reportedly or anything. It's more about getting that strength built up in that wrist that he had the splint on. And that's the thing right now is that they want to rebuild that strength in that wrist before he returns to action for the Chicago Bulls. But I'll say this, it feels good to hear that he is in game shape. That's really good. He's been able to basically do everything to stay in that shape, keep his conditioning up, which is really important. So I think that's a good thing to get Zach Collins back on this team. But it seems like he still may be a week or more away from getting back with him working up that strength. And his comeback is looking more so after the Bulls November 24th matchup with the New Orleans Pelicans, which is 9 days away. So it looks like his target date is that Pelicans game 9 days away from where we are today, which still puts him right outside that 5-game window. Coby talked about playing 3 or 5 on. He'll be on the road when we take on the Pelicans. But the fact that there is a timeline now for Zach Collins, I think, is a really good thing. And yeah, we'll see. So really good, really good. We have a 3-day break before going to face the Hornets after we play against the Pelicans. So if Zach Collins returns back that day, that could be a nice game for him to return, see how everything feels. Then we don't play again for 3 days later. So it seems like that target date is intentional. And, like I said, with this medical staff, if they have some intention behind what they're doing, I think that works out best for the Bulls. But, all right, moving on from that, right? I want to have an episode. I've had now 2 episodes debunking the Anthony Davis rumors and talking about why the Bulls are unlikely to trade for a player like Anthony Davis or Ja Morant, for that matter, with the size of the contracts and all those things that are playing into that. But as you guys know, you can mention something, but do you have any alternatives to it? That's a thing, right? And I try to always like bringing that. So on today's episode, before we dive into the mailbag portion, I want to talk about some players that I do think could be available at the trade deadline and that make more sense than Anthony Davis. We're going to start at the top, and this is the one that's the most long shot. I want to be clear here, and I'll give the reasons why for and why against all these players, right? But reportedly, Domantas Sabonis is available. And with the Chicago Bulls having the expiring contracts that they are, I think the front office would be remiss to not at least explore the options of Domantas Sabonis. Now, you look at what he's been. He's one of the most talented big men in the game of basketball, but there are some similar limitations to him and Vooch. And the question then would be, and I know a question that a lot of Bulls fans in hearing me say this, their mind probably first went to, is that not just younger Nikola Vucevic? And to some point, you're absolutely correct in that, right? I want to be clear here. I do think that Sabonis being 29 rather than 35, that puts him close on the timeline. I do think having a good passing interior big man like Sabonis as well would really help the Chicago Bulls in the same way that Vooch, when he's on, helps the Chicago Bulls. I also think Sabonis is a lot more consistent and aggressive player, at least on the offensive side of the ball, than Nikola Vucevic. I don't think this is a perfect fit for the Bulls at all. I don't think he brings the style change that they would want at that center position, but it is a younger center that can still get triple doubles, that when you look at the passing from helping the other players develop and things like that, he could definitely do that. And this is a guy that, we've seen him do with the playoff runs with the Kings and stuff like that. And with the Kings, looking like they're going to miss the playoffs this year and they could go for a full teardown. I'm just saying, again, Sabonis could be somebody on the Bulls' radar way more than what the Anthony Davis, almost $20 million less on the contract of Domantas Sabonis than what Anthony Davis would be getting also. Now, he does have 3 years left on his deal. The last year's $48 million, and that still may be a little bit too rich for the blood of the Chicago Bulls and where they stand at. And like I said, the biggest knock on him would really be is that he's not that much of a defender. He's just not that much of a defender, and that's part of the problem, right? And so if the Bulls are not going to look at Domantas Sabonis, that's going to be a really thing. He doesn't change the Bulls' style of play defensively enough, and he really isn't the rim protector that you're looking for, or a lob threat, really, that you're looking for with Josh Giddey. But, again, somebody that if the Bulls are looking to add a ready-made now talent and worry about fit later, and again, with Noah Essengate in the wings there, maybe he could provide him and Modest at that 3 and 4, could provide enough defense starting next season, because I don't know how much Noah's going to play this season, around Sabonis. So that's the question there. Again, Sabonis is somebody that I feel like, because he's available, people were going to ask, and I had to have him on the list. Now, the next two are definitely ones that fit the mold of the type of center that we want. Number one, Daniel Gafford. A lot of people brought up Daniel Gafford once the Anthony Davis rumor started. It's like, what about Daniel Gafford? And when you look at Gaff, like, he's, of course, fits the style. A more mobile big man that can get up and run. He's not really a pick and pop threat. He's just a pick and roll threat. Pick and lob threat is where you really want to look at him at. And one of the problems with Gafford is the rebounding. He doesn't have the greatest rebounding rate. And while we are a really good team rebounding, and maybe that can offset that, I still personally think that being able to average double-digit rebounds, especially if you're not going to be a huge scoring threat, is something that you kind of need there. Now, with the way that the Bulls play, maybe he can get to that double. I think the most rebounds he ever averaged in his career were 8, and that was his last year in Washington, I believe. So that's what you're looking at there. But other than that, like, Gafford fits the style. He's a more mobile big man that likes to get out and run. He's tough. He could be definitely a lob threat and an in-transition threat for the Chicago Bulls. The contract is one of the things that you have to look at there. Are the Bulls willing to attach themselves to 3 years left, or 2 years after the season left of Daniel Gafford, at $18 and $18.9 million in the next 2 seasons? Now, I mean, when you look at potentially going out there and getting a big man You're probably going to pay that much regardless for the style of big man that the Bulls need. But are the Bulls willing to do that at this year's trade deadline or maybe wait till the offseason? That's an absolute question there. But Daniel Gafford is not a player that I would mind being back in a Bulls uniform at all. I wouldn't mind that at all. Over a block a game for his career, all those type of things. He really just would only be a lob and putback threat as far as on the offensive side of the ball. Not really a threat to stretch the floor, which would put more of an emphasis on Coby White and Domantas Sabonis to take the next step offensively as well. And the question is can you have two non-spacers on the court with Okoro and Gafford, two really non-big scoring threats out there in that starting lineup? That would be one of the questions. The next up, Yves Missi. This is a player that people asked about in the offseason, and initially, my response always was, I don't think they look to move a second-year player that they just got that really had a really solid finish as a starter for them at the end of last year. But then Derek Queen came along. And while I know a lot of Bulls fans are kicking themselves over us not drafting Derek Queen and what that could then look like for the Bulls, but Yves Missi is a player that then he fits the stylistic mold that you want as well. Over a block per game, again, even this year and last year as a rookie, he's been more regulated to the bench. He's only averaging 18 minutes per game this season as opposed to the 26 that he averaged last season where he averaged 9 points. But he's a player that's very much so in that Daniel Gafford type mode as far as just the way that he plays, not really being an independent scoring threat, like he can't create his own shot. I don't say that to be a knock on him. He's a center. Centers used to not have to create their own shot at all, right? But the thing that really would make me kind of lean towards or be interested in Missi as a starter last season, because he hasn't really started much this season. 67 games started, 27 minutes played. He averaged 9 points, 8 rebounds, 1.3 blocks, 1.3 assists, right at a half a steal per game, and he doesn't turn the ball over. That's with 55% shooting from the field that he averaged last year as a starter, and so there's some promise there. Now, again, this is not I don't know if you want to bet on him as your long-term starting center of the future, but he fits the Bulls' timeline at only 21 years old. Who's to say who he can turn into, once all that's said and done and he continues to develop his game? But he's another player that could definitely be gettable, and because his contract isn't a lot, you can absorb that contract with just sending back the matching salary to create a roster spot, but then you're probably looking at draft compensation being what the Pelicans focus on if they're really making that pivot to Derek Queen being their center of the future. But I do think he's probably a player that could be gettable, but the asking price is probably going to be viewed at as more steep than what the production shows you so far. But again, a player that I do think could be very, interesting. He was an end of first round pick last year, so I think we're probably going to look for something similar to get back from him. But Yves Missi's definitely a player as well that's out there that could be that the Bulls could be interested in. I focused this list just on centers. I almost put PJ Washington on this list because I do think what PJ brings as two-way potential at the three. If you were to replace Isaac Okoro in our starting lineup for PJ Washington, we become just a much more versatile team. But he can't be moved until after the season. Because when he signed his contract, he can't be moved till March. The trade deadline is in February, so that means he can't be moved this season, but he could be somebody to watch in the offseason, just not somebody who fits this list of trade deadline acquisitions for the Chicago Bulls. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Which players do you think, ones that I mentioned or did not mention, the Chicago Bulls could be interested in pursuing if they decide to make a move for a big man or any other position at this year's trade deadline? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the mailbag portion of today's episode. This first voicemail, this one we got is from Tone.
Hey, Haize, what's up, my brother? This is Tone from Perth Amboy. I don't know what's going on with the Bulls lately, man. 3 straight losses, man, and 3 games that we could have won, after having the lead in the fourth quarter. So I'm starting to see that our defense is starting to break down in the fourth quarter, and they playing like shit, bro. They playing like shit. I just want to ask you, man, are we losing our defensive mind? Are we really losing our defensive mind? And another question, do you think we should sit Okoro's ass down and start Ayo DeSumo or Kevin Huerter at that position, man? Because he ain't really putting up no numbers, man, and I'd rather have a defensive-minded ball forward that can score at least, I don't know, man. I'm starting to lose faith in this team, man. I know it's only 10 games, man, but we should be 9-1 by now after losing those after losing the lead in the fourth quarter, man. Just, I don't know, man. I think they need to put you as head coach, man, and kick Billy Bubblegum Donovan's ass out, man. But those are my questions to you, man. And, great job, man. Great job, man. Great job. Love it. Love it. Love you. Bye.
Yeah, the Bulls breakdowns late in games suck. I mean, it really does suck because it seems like a team that just doesn't have enough fight to get over the hump, where they're being outworked by other teams, and that just doesn't feel good. To say that about your team, to feel that about your team, it just doesn't feel good to say that, especially based off how we started off this season and how much fire we started the season off with. And so I do think you're right. Like, the Bulls have lost their defensive focus. Surprisingly enough, though, Josh Giddey has been a huge reason of the Bulls' communication on defense, holding players accountable on defense, him stepping his defense up. I think that's part that's missed. For a team that defends as a team and doesn't have necessarily the best one-on-one defenders, communication becomes highly important. And Josh Giddey's really developed into that guy for the Chicago Bulls at the start of this season. I think that's an aspect of this that's also been missed, right? Now, as far as your other question, should the Bulls sit Isaac Okoro? I'm of two minds with it, right? For one, he wasn't brought in here, as you said, to put up numbers. That's not what his role was to be here. And I do think when Coby gets back, is that the scoring that we don't get from Isaac Okoro, that's going to be even less evident. He can focus on what he brings defensively to this team. And I think that's the overall plan. And I think we're not going to see a big change in that until we see what happens when Coby's out there. Because if Coby's out there spacing the floor, he could get even more open shots in the corner for Okoro and Matas Buzelis with the way that he drives as well. The teams have to play him as a scoring threat. So I think that's what you're looking at. So I'm not saying that he can't eventually be benched, but I don't think it happens right now until we see what the actual starting five that Billy Donovan had in mind looks like coming into the season. And that's where I think that decision will be made. But great voicemail. Great questions there, Tone. Let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas, man. Oh, Lord. I just had to call in and bitch about Vucevic again. To your point that you made about Kevin Huerter on today's podcast, or the episode, when his shot's not falling, he finds other ways to contribute to the team. And with Vucevic, all the games that we say he had a great game were games where more likely than not he knocked down 2 or 3 threes. So with Vucevic, and this is what I don't like about those European players. With Vucevic, if his three is not falling, it throws his whole game off. So his production is solely dependent upon if his shot is going. And you look at Kevin Huerter, okay, well, all right, my shot's not falling. I'm gonna play a little defense. I'm gonna go down there and I'm still gonna penetrate the paint. I'm gonna find a way to contribute to this team. And he's getting paid far less than what Vucevic is getting paid. We paid Vucevic to come here and be a star. I think he needs the same treatment that Patrick Williams got, and have a long, tough conversation with his ass and sit him on the bench and make him come off the bench. He did it to Patrick Williams and made Patrick Williams lock in a little bit more. I feel like we're getting better overall. Even though his numbers aren't that much better than last year, Patrick Williams basically has the same numbers with having less time on the court. So he's more productive. And I think Vucevic might need the same. He might need to just come off the bench and just ride with Jalen for a little while and ride with the hot hand and hope when Coby gets back that'll give us the offensive production that we need. But something's got to give with him, man. I mean, this is his, 4th year with us, and we have yet to get the guy we thought we were getting from Orlando, in my opinion. And I don't think that you can keep just sitting up here and saying, well, defense ain't his game. That's bullshit. Basketball requires you to play on both ends of the floor. Kevin Huerter's doing it. So I don't understand how we could just keep going, well, defense is not his game. Being aggressive is not his game. Well, guess what? We got the wrong center. You cannot have a center where when one aspect of his game isn't working, everything else doesn't work. That's just flat out effort, man. Checks us up, and dadgummit, bear down.
I actually think the opposite is true. I think that Vooch has typically shot the 3 ball better when he starts off the game actually getting touches in the paint. So that's where I disagree at. And I want to be clear, not that I don't disagree that we need a two-way center here that would really change and take this team to the next levels. But when you say things like we haven't gotten the guy that we traded for, Nikola Vucevic, I think we've gotten exactly that guy. The only difference between Vuce here and Vuce in Orlando is that he was more prioritized. He was basically the number one scoring option for a couple of seasons there. Vuce has never been a great defender. He's only really had one season of high volume, efficient shooting from the 3-point line, and that was the season that we traded for him. So, then we may try to make him a 3-point shooter. So I got to disagree. I think Vooch has come in here and been exactly who we traded him to be. The problem is that when they traded for Nikola Vucevic, their hope was Patrick Williams was going to develop as the defensive four that you needed next to Nikola Vucevic to try to overcome some of his defensive limitations, and that just never happened. And that's not to take the onus off Vooch. Vooch does take plays. He falls asleep on plays defensively and things like that. And that is the thing that we need better as far as a two-way center. But when you say things like, well, in the NBA, you have to be a two-way player, Darius, go and look at some of the players in the NBA that's getting paid, that are really good offensive players, and go and tell me that in the modern NBA, that people are getting paid to play both sides. They're not. Now, those players that do are actually two-way players. They are valuable, super valuable. And that's why it's hard to just go out and get those guys, because usually if a team has that guy, they don't want to let him go no matter what the state of their team is. But I do think eventually we're going to need that, and we'll see, right? But Vucevic's play over the last 4 or 5 game stretch has been horrible, and we definitely need better from Nikola Vucevic there. But all right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one is from Brian Washington.
Yo, what up, Haize? This is Brian Washington from the West Side, man. What's good? Man, I just want to comment on the Bulls, man, this little streak they going through. I'm not worried about the little slide, you know what I'm saying? Like, every team went through even a lot of the big name teams lost their first 4 games, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of the big teams that was playoff teams last year, they lost 3-4 games themselves. So hopefully the Bulls learn from this. They learning from this. This is still early in the season, and hopefully they can get it together. And hopefully this is, they can put an end to this little skid, you know what I'm saying? Because they definitely need to win. I don't give a damn who they playing next. I know they play Utah probably next. They need to win this game. They don't need no 5-game losing streak. They don't. They need to get this shit together right now. But I believe they can. And like another voicemail I heard, we haven't seen this team in full strength yet. You know what I'm saying? We still haven't seen Coby White, Zach Collins. You know what I'm saying? And a couple games we didn't have Io. We lost a game without him, a couple. And Josh Giddey, that was a fucking triple-double we was playing without. So it's a lot, and they still got to get their defense tightened and everything, and, get back to the way they was playing and having fun again. But I'm not worried about them, man. They just, hopefully they going through this skid now and things get better later on in the season. I'd rather them do it now than start off good and then, boom, they drop a bomb on us, lose a lot of games. But I think they playing with the players we got on and with the starters out. They still playing tough, you know what I'm saying? So I like to see that. I at least like to see that. And I still believe in this team, man, but I'm not worried about it. They'll get it together. We just need to, it seems like we go through these seasons and we never really start off the season full strength. And then when one come back, another important player go down, you know what I'm saying? So, man, we just need to get that part together, but I'm not worried about it. But all right, good day.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's way too early to be giving up on this Bulls team. They had the toughest schedule to start the season, and they're still above 500, 11 games in, and we haven't seen Coby at all. We've missed Zach Collins for the entirety of the year. Giddey and Io missed 2 games each. So there's a lot of things that, we haven't seen the best of this team yet, hopefully. And therefore, until we see that, I can't say that I'm out on this team. Yeah, the 4-game losing streak sucks, and it really sucks, right? But I think when when people step away and don't be so reactionary and just look at where the state of this team is, I think that there's still a lot of room for optimism. Now they have to show it, and we'll see. They got a lot of difficult stretches in the season, but the Bulls have the easiest schedule left in the NBA. And so let's see. They made it through the toughest part. Now let's see what they do with an easier schedule. Now get going forward and the full roster healthy. All right, let's get into this last one, man. This one is from Big Rob.
Hey, this is Big Rob. Many blessings to you from the West Side. I was just playing catch up with everything with the news, and everybody was talking about, like, I guess this Anthony Davis thing, and I just want to ask you this question. What is it with us, and I'm not saying all Bulls fans, but some that just want like a star name versus just appreciating that right now we got something that's growing. It may not be perfect right now, and obviously the team's not doing well, but you can see they're at least going in the right direction when it comes to the players that they got, to the player development. Obviously, seeing how Trey Jones has involved and Jalen Smith, how he's been playing. So I guess I'm just wanting to know from you personally, why are we willing to sacrifice the future for something short term and a first round exit for a guy that has not even proven that he can even be healthy long enough to even maintain, stability? And I just feel like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. We did that with Jabari Parker. We did that with Dwayne Wade. I understand these are Chicagoans, but at some point you have to look at someone and just say, can we just appreciate what we have? When you see Coby White doing the best that he can, he's homegrown for us. Josh Giddey was a blessing in disguise, getting some of these younger players and just seeing how they evolve. So I just want your perspective of why are we always trying to force the issue versus just trying to let it organically grow. Let me know what you think. Peace.
I think here's my mindset, and this may offend some people, but I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say it plainly. When you ask why are fans, basically why are they so apt to go star hunting, I'll say this. Most fans are casual, and meaning that those fans mostly rely on the names that they know, right? And they're not really necessarily invested in the building part of a team, that development part of a team. They don't understand what they see and look on the court and see that as development. They don't really think about the process that it takes to get to be a winning team. All they know is names equals wins, and that's the way that they view it, right? So they're always going to look at how do we go out and get the name that they know. And then even after that, even the fans that aren't just casuals, there's still a large part of the fans that don't have patience for the team building organically and it taking more time. They want it all done now. They want their team to fix every perceived problem with the team right away, right now, and it should not take a bunch of time to do that. So when you pair that segment of the fan base with the casuals who just don't have the time or the interest to follow in and day out as far as development and all that, that leads you to where you have this vocal part of the fan base that just wants to see, if they hear the Bulls interested in the star or a star name linked to the Bulls, they want to see them go out and get them. And that's just what it comes down to. Now, the more sustainable thing is building organically, is doing it over time. No skipping steps. I have this adage that I say, do not make a big name trade just to become a playoff team. Usually when you see a team bring in a star, whether it's a free agent signing or a trade, it's after they've had some playoff experience, after they've gone and gone on a couple playoff runs and see, all right, bet this is our ceiling. Now let's increase that. Establish your base first and then go out there and get that name to take you over the top or hope that that name is going to develop on your team. And that's just what I think that's a more sustainable thing. So, we shall see. But thank you guys all for leaving those voicemails, man. You guys are appreciated more than you know. With Giddey, Coby, and Zach Collins all on the way back, this team is about to look different, and hopefully different in a good way. It's about building consistently and staying locked in defensively, and that's what this team is going to have to get to. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe as well, share your thoughts in the comment section down below on the pinned comment. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe out there, see red, and always go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.